Ladies and gentlemen, imagine standing at the edge of a vast ocean, watching the waves crash violently against the shore. Now, imagine that wave is your life, your plans, your dreams, everything you thought you were, being pulled under, broken, dissolved. That moment when everything falls apart, when life breaks you, is the moment we fear the most. But what if I told you that this breaking is not the end, that in the midst of destruction, something profound is waiting? You see, we live under the illusion that we are in control. We construct identities, build futures, weave intricate stories about who we are and where we are going. And then one day, life comes along like a great cosmic trickster and says, no, my dear, not that way. Maybe it's a loss, a failure, a betrayal. Maybe it's waking up one morning and realizing that everything you once held dear now feels hollow. And in that moment, we feel like we've been shattered. We fight, we struggle, we curse the heavens, demanding, why is this happening to me? But that's precisely where the misunderstanding lies. Life isn't happening to you. Life is happening through you. What breaks is not you. It's the false self, the one clinging to control, the one trying to hold on to a past that no longer exists. It's like holding on to water with a clenched fist. The tighter you grip, the faster it slips away. But what if, instead of resisting, we allowed ourselves to break, to surrender to the flow, to let go of what we thought we were and embrace what we might become? Because in the moment of absolute devastation, there is a strange and beautiful secret. You are not the one being destroyed. You are the one being set free. Think of the caterpillar confined in its cocoon. It doesn't gently transition into a butterfly. It dissolves completely. It breaks, it ceases to be what it was, and only through that dissolution does something new emerge. So when life breaks you, don't rush to put the pieces back together. Sit with the fragments, observe the silence, because in that space something remarkable is happening. You are not being punished, you are being transformed. And when you finally stop fighting, when you finally let go, you'll realize something astonishing. There was never anything to fix. There was only the illusion of brokenness. You were never meant to remain the same. You were always meant to flow. The illusion of control is perhaps the most persistent and deeply ingrained belief we carry. From the moment we begin to understand the world, we are taught that our efforts, our willpower, and our carefully laid plans determine the course of our lives. We set goals, create expectations, and convince ourselves that if we just work hard enough, if we just do everything right, life will unfold according to our design. And then, inevitably, something happens that shatters this illusion. A sudden loss, a betrayal, an unexpected failure. Life intrudes, uninvited and indifferent to our carefully constructed narratives. In that moment, we feel as though we are spiraling, grasping at a reality that no longer behaves the way we thought it would. We rage, we resist, we try to make sense of it all, as if we can reason our way back into control. But the more we cling to certainty, the more suffering we create for ourselves, because control was never real to begin with. Life is not a predictable sequence of events that obeys our commands. It is a wild, untamed river, constantly shifting, constantly flowing, utterly indifferent to our desires. And yet, within that very indifference lies its beauty. The more we attempt to control the current, the more exhausted we become. But the moment we stop resisting, we discover something profound. We were never separate from the river to begin with. The turbulence, the chaos, the unexpected turns, they were never happening to us. They were happening as us. The breaking we fear is simply life removing the veil, revealing the truth we have always known but refused to accept, that we were never in control and we never needed to be. Life is not a straight road. It is not a carefully laid out plan that unfolds neatly in front of us. Instead, it is a rhythm, a dance between chaos and order, between creation and destruction. And yet we have been conditioned to fear the chaos, to see disorder as something to be avoided, something to be fixed. But if you truly look at life, at nature, at the cosmos, you'll see that it does not resist chaos. The stars themselves were born from the violent collapse of ancient matter. A tree does not grow in a straight line. It twists, bends, and breaks before it reaches the sky. Even the waves of the ocean do not move in a single direction. They rise, they fall, they crash, and then they rise again. So why do we insist that our lives should be any different? When life breaks us, when we feel lost, we assume that something has gone terribly wrong. But what if instead it is simply part of the dance? What if the chaos is not an interruption of the pattern, but an essential part of it? We try so hard to hold on to control, to structure our lives in a way that feels safe and predictable, but the more rigid we become, the more easily we shatter. It is only when we embrace the rhythm of life, both the order and the chaos, that we begin to flow. The river does not argue with the rocks in its path. It moves around them, over them, reshaping itself as it goes. And so when life breaks you, do not see it as an end. See it as an opening, a new way forward. Because the dance never stops. It only changes form. And the more you learn to move with it rather than against it, the more you begin to realize you were never meant to stay the same. When life breaks you, the first instinct is to resist, to fight against the current, to try to put things back the way they were. But have you ever noticed what happens when you struggle in deep water? The more you flail, the faster you sink. Life works the same way. The more we resist suffering, the more we amplify it. We hold on to expectations, clinging to the way things should be. And when reality doesn't match, we suffer, not because of the event itself, but because of our refusal to let go. But surrender is not the same as defeat. To surrender does not mean to give up, it means to give in. It means recognizing that life has always been bigger than our plans, our desires, our fears. It means trusting the unfolding even when we don't understand it. Imagine the trees in a storm. The ones that stand rigid, refusing to bend, are the first to break. But the ones that sway, that move with the wind, survive. They don't fight the storm, they dance with it. So when life breaks you, don't waste your energy fighting something beyond your control. Instead, soften. Let yourself flow with the current rather than against it. Because what feels like breaking is often just a transformation in disguise. When life breaks you, a strange thing happens. You begin to lose the identity you once clung to, the job title, the relationship, the achievements, the carefully crafted story of who you thought you were. All of it starts to dissolve, and at first it feels terrifying. We spend our lives trying to be somebody, someone important, successful, admired. We build our egos like houses of glass, polishing them so the world sees only what we want them to see. But when life breaks you, those walls shatter, and you are left standing in the ruins, wondering, who am I now? And this, my friend, is where the real magic happens. Because when you lose the illusion of being somebody, you open yourself to something far greater. You begin to see that you were never just a name, a role, or a collection of achievements. Beneath all of that, you are something vast and infinite, like the sky that remains untouched, no matter how many storms pass through it. The world teaches us to fear this loss, to patch up the cracks as quickly as possible. But the truth is, the cracks are where the light gets in. When life breaks you, don't rush to put the pieces back together. Instead, sit with the emptiness. Allow yourself to become nobody, because in that space of nothingness, you will discover something extraordinary. You were never just somebody to begin with. When life breaks you, it often feels like drowning, like being pulled into a current stronger than you can fight. And our first instinct is to resist, to thrash, to struggle against the tide. But what if the struggle itself is what's keeping us from rising? Look at a river. It doesn't argue with the rocks in its path. It doesn't stop and complain, this isn't how it's supposed to be. It moves effortlessly, reshaping itself, finding a new way forward. And yet we humans spend so much of our time fighting the flow of life, believing that if we just try hard enough, we can force things back to the way they were. But life doesn't work that way. It never has. The universe is in a constant state of movement. Stars collapse, seasons change, rivers carve new paths, and we are not separate from this rhythm. So when life breaks you, don't waste energy swimming against the current. Let yourself be carried. Trust that the flow knows where it's taking you, because when you stop resisting, when you finally let go, you'll realize something astonishing. You are never meant to stay in one place. You are always meant to move, to change, to transform. And when you embrace that, you'll see that life never truly breaks you. It only breaks the illusions you were never meant to hold on to. So, when life breaks you, what do? Do you fight? Do you resist? Do you try to rebuild the same walls that were never meant to stand? Or do you finally let go and see what lies beyond the wreckage? The truth is you were never broken, only the illusion of who you thought you were was. And that is not a tragedy, it is a liberation. Because beyond the breaking, beyond the chaos, beyond the loss of control, there is something waiting, something vast, something free, something that was always there beneath the noise. You. Not the version of you that clings, that fears, that resists, but the one that flows effortlessly with life, like a river finding its way home. So stop trying to fix yourself. Stop fearing the breaking, because life is not trying to destroy you. It is trying to awaken you. And the moment you surrender to that truth, you will realize you were never lost. You were only ever becoming.